You've probably heard that biblical principles are outdated, impractical, or even restrictive. But what if these ancient ideas like Sabbath rest, generosity, and stewardship actually hold the key to a kind of success most people miss? Studies today show that things like setting aside time to rest, practicing gratitude, and giving to others can lead to a more balanced, fulfilled life than chasing after quick wins or instant gratification. It might sound surprising, but the Bible's wisdom offers practical tools for living well in today's world, tools that go way beyond just making money. So, why do so many people get the wrong idea about what biblical success really means? A lot of our confusion about biblical success comes from the way we've learned to measure achievement. For many people, biblical principles seem either like a list of rules or a promise of material blessings, almost a formula for getting ahead if you follow the right steps. But that's a pretty incomplete picture. Part of the problem is how much our culture has shifted. Today, success is often about fast results and visible rewards. Take the get rich quick mentality. Everywhere you look, there are promises of easy money, shortcuts to wealth, and instant recognition. This isn't just a modern thing, but it's become the loudest message. In contrast, if you look at Jesus's parable of the talents, the focus isn't on shortcuts or quick wins. It's about stewardship, using what you have wisely, working diligently, and growing over time. The biblical model values steady progress, responsibility, and faithfulness, not just the end result. This misunderstanding gets even deeper when you see how some modern teachings have twisted the idea of prosperity. The prosperity gospel, for example, often suggests that material wealth is the main sign of God's favor. That can make it easy to miss the bigger message. In the Bible, prosperity is about flourishing in purpose, relationships, and inner peace, not just your bank account. Florence Nightingale's story is a real-life example of this. She was born into wealth and had every opportunity for comfort and fame, but none of that gave her the sense of fulfillment she wanted. Instead, she found meaning in serving others, caring for the sick, and using her skills to make a difference. Her faith drove her to look past her own comfort and focus on something bigger. That's the kind of success the Bible points to, one built on service, not self-promotion. If you look at the wisdom books like Ecclesiastes, you see the same theme. Chasing after wealth for its own sake is compared to chasing the wind. It never truly satisfies. Job's story, too, shows that even when everything is taken away, what matters most is a life anchored in trust, purpose, and integrity. These biblical examples challenge the idea that happiness and meaning come from quick wins or material gain. So when we talk about biblical prosperity, it's not about strict rules or instant rewards. It's about a life that feels whole, a sense of peace, strong relationships, and meaningful work. It's about using your gifts well, caring for others, and living with purpose, even if it doesn't always look impressive from the outside. This way of thinking stands in stark contrast to the promises of fast wealth and easy success. The biblical path is slower, deeper, and asks more of us, but it offers something that quick fixes never can. And that's where we start to see a real difference between what the world offers and what biblical wisdom lays out. Let's talk about what really sets biblical prosperity apart from all those get-rich-quick schemes you see everywhere. On the surface, those schemes promise instant results, big profits, barely any effort, and a shortcut to success. It's easy to see why that's tempting. Who wouldn't want to skip the hard parts and just arrive at the finish line? But the reality is, chasing after these shortcuts often leaves people feeling empty, exhausted, and sometimes even compromising their values for a shot at fast money. When you look closer, these quick fixes can actually take a lot more from you than they give. Sure, you might get a short-term boost in your bank account, but the pressure to always be chasing the next big thing can wear you down. People start sacrificing time with family, ignoring their health, or making choices they're not proud of just to keep up. Even when they do hit a milestone, it rarely brings the satisfaction they hoped for. It's like winning a race but realizing you ran in the wrong direction. Biblical prosperity goes in the opposite direction. It's not about overnight success or only chasing after money. It's about the long game, a steady, intentional journey built on values like hard work, integrity, and generosity. Take the parable of the talents from Matthew 25:14-30. In this story, the master gives his servants resources to manage. The ones who invest and work faithfully are rewarded, not because they found a shortcut, but because they used what they had wisely and grew it over time. The message isn't about fast results, it's about stewardship, patience, and building something meaningful that lasts. You can see this idea play out in real life too. Look at the story of Bishop Dudley and New Life's international outreach. Instead of focusing on quick financial wins, he built a legacy of servant leadership, investing in people, supporting communities, and making a difference that goes far beyond money. That kind of prosperity is sustainable because it's rooted in service and generosity. The impact reaches not just the individual, but entire communities, creating a ripple effect that endures. That's the big difference. Wealth built on shortcuts or exploitation might look impressive for a while, but it's usually unstable. It can lead to regret, broken relationships, or even a loss of purpose. On the other hand, biblical prosperity is about using what you have to serve others, contribute to something bigger, and build a foundation that stands the test of time. It asks us to focus on what really matters. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:19-21. Generosity is central here. Giving your time, your resources, or even just encouragement isn't about losing out. It's about multiplying impact. The world might say to hold tight to what you have, but biblical wisdom flips that idea. When you give, you create something that lasts, both for yourself and for others. So when you compare these two paths, you see that biblical prosperity isn't about getting rich quick. It's about steady growth, deep roots, and a purpose that goes beyond just making money. And that's what really stands out when you look at the advice floating around today. There's a reason these ancient principles keep working even when the latest trends fade away. It's easy to see why so many people turn to self-help books, podcasts, and influencers for advice on building a better life. The promise is almost always the same. You can transform your world if you just focus on your own goals, your own habits, your own mindset. At first, that sounds empowering, but when you look closer, there's a catch. By putting all the emphasis on individual achievement, a lot of these messages leave people feeling isolated, like they have to figure out everything alone. The more you buy into the idea that it's all on you, the less space there is for real connection, honest support, or being challenged by others who care about your growth. There's another problem with the self-help approach. It's usually about quick results. You see it everywhere. 3 steps to happiness, use 1 habit to change your life. The focus is on fast solutions, but those solutions tend to skim the surface. Sure, you might pick up a new routine or hack your productivity for a few weeks, but if you're dealing with deeper struggles like loneliness, resentment, or a lack of purpose, these quick fixes just don't go far enough. You end up with better habits maybe, but still feel like something's missing. This is where biblical principles show their strength. They don't promise overnight transformation. Instead, they offer practices that build you up from the inside out, and they do it in ways that connect you to others. Take Sabbath rest, for example. In the biblical tradition, Sabbath isn't just about not working. It's about stepping away from the grind, spending time with people you love, and reconnecting with what matters most. Modern research backs this up. People who regularly unplug and rest with others have lower stress and stronger relationships. It's a practice that's about community as much as it is about personal well-being. Gratitude is another core biblical value. While self-help often treats gratitude as a personal journaling exercise, the Bible frames it as something that draws people together and shifts your focus from what you lack to what you share. Studies show that regular gratitude, especially when it's expressed in community, can boost mental health and even improve physical well-being. Forgiveness works the same way. It's not just about letting go for your own peace. It's about healing relationships and building trust. Biblical counseling models like the 4 B's from Acts 2, be present, be honest, be encouraging, be accountable, show how these principles foster real community and lasting change. You can see how these ideas come alive in stories like Charles Dickens bringing gospel themes into public theaters. He didn't keep Christian values locked inside churches. He wove them into everyday life, showing that faith-based principles can shape how we treat each other in any setting. It's a reminder that biblical wisdom isn't just about personal improvement. It's about creating a culture where people lift each other up. So, while self-help advice often stops at the level of the individual, biblical principles go deeper. They reach into every part of life, your relationships, your purpose, your sense of belonging. They give you a foundation that doesn't crumble when things get tough, and they invite you to grow in ways that last. This brings up something important. Maybe real success isn't about chasing the next big thing or stacking up achievements. Maybe it's about something bigger, something that lasts beyond your own story. When you look at the lives shaped by biblical principles, it's clear that real prosperity is about the impact you leave behind, not just what you gain for yourself. Success in this sense means building something that lasts, like Jesse Boots' legacy of service and community support, which outlived any short-term profit. If you're wondering where to start, try putting one of these principles into practice this week. Maybe set aside intentional time for rest, or look for a way to be generous with someone in your circle. You might be surprised by how much these small steps can shift your perspective. Stay blessed, my friends.